Someone shared screenshots of these tweets with me this afternoon. And since it's Sunday evening, let's indulge. So take a look. Okay, so first of all, none of these opinions are wrong. But let's look in between the lines and see, just for the value of it, what we can learn from these opinions. So let's start from this one. The only thing I have to say about it is no country builds maisonette or condominiums for their low income or middle income. And that goes to the fact that 1004 was not planned for middle income or low income citizens. And so this is not one of those cases where a public housing project was hijacked. But really, buildings like this in other countries are typical representation of housing for the middle and low income because you achieve more by going vertical. And I think that takes us into the next one, which is this one. Really, yes, condominiums like this should solve the problem of housing for Lagos. Because realistically, a city with limited land, fast growing expansion and population should actually counter that population by going vertical. And so logically, this kind of condominium should be what we build for Lagos. However, there is a caveat that right now, the mathematics or economics of building structures like this realistically make it impossible for us to use condominiums or high rise of this nature for middle or low income housing. Because once concrete or steel enters that conversation and factor in the cost of land in Lagos also, you see how that becomes a pot of beans. Until we get our energy, power, manufacturing, and industrial sectors right, whereby we can start mass producing prefabricated housing parts or housing components such that the economics of scale counters the cost of production. That is when we can start having this kind of high rise work for the middle class. But until then, mid-rise buildings will do just that for now. And I think that also by extension addresses this. And personally, like I said, there are different sides to this conversation that each of these tweets point at. The need for us to grow our manufacturing so that we can start incorporating prefab technology that can help us counter the cost of production of housing. Also, we need to understand that what works in other countries may not work for us. So the stereotypes look and feel may not apply to our client. Or the fact that the high class or the haves live in condominiums do not mean that generally housing quality in Lagos or in Nigeria is poor. And I think the bottom line is housing in Lagos is evolving. Understanding and perception of the market is currently being shaped. And I believe the more we have conversations like this, the more we can awaken everybody's consciousness to the fact that a lot needs to change when it comes to housing and every matter that has to do with the socio-economic structure of our urban cities. I hope this helps.